R.K. Miles, Rich Jacobs, the Edward Jones Financial Advisor in Morrisville, Gifford Medical Center, and Waterbury Sports. Your home for Boston Red Sox baseball is WDEV.
The Brady Farkas Show is produced and funded by WDEV and the Radio Vermont Group. We welcome listener feedback. Email your comments to WDEV@radiovermont.com.
The teams you care about.
Mac Jones is good. That's not the question. The question is he good enough to win repeatedly in this loaded AFC?
The stories that matter to you.
If I'm Xander Bogaerts, I need 3 things in order to get over that insulting contract offer.
This is your home for New England sports.
Jason Tatum, superstar. Book it.
This is the Brady Farkas Show on WDEV AM, FM, and WDEVradio.com.
What's up, everybody? This is a wild Thursday here. This is the Brady Farkas Show on WDEV, AM and FM, and WDEVradio.com. Full show tonight, all 90 minutes, right up until 7 o'clock. Red Sox off today. Sox getting ready for a weekend series in Chicago against the Cubs. Today, we're going to look, the Kevin Durant stuff is going on like as we speak right now. The Kyrie Irving stuff is going on as we speak right now. NBA free agency kicks off at 6 p.m. tonight. We'll see exactly what's happening there. We'll tell you if the Celtics make any moves. Buster Olney is going to stop by here in about 15 minutes at 5:45. We're going to put the finishing touches on all this Tanner Houck vaccine stuff. So we got a lot of stuff to get to. Let's just get right into it, by the way. Napa Morrisville, Napa Waterbury text line, 802-585-3026. That's your locally owned Napa stores in Waterbury and Morrisville. You're going to want to hit it up because there is a lot, and I mean a lot, to get to.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
And here we go.
The opening thoughts of the Brady Farkas Show are brought to you by Sticks and Stuff and by Swanton Lumber, Vermont's most complete locally owned home center with locations in Enosburg, Derby, Middlesex, St. Albans, and at Swanton Lumber. They're online at sticksandstuff.com. I want to put the finishing touches on some of these stories, some of these vaccine-related stories that have come out for the Red Sox in the last couple of days and a few things that we've been hearing. Let's start number one with the Trevor Story. There was a story out this week from Alex Spear of the Boston Globe that said the Red Sox mandated Story to get the vaccine before they signed him. Today, Sam Kennedy, one of the higher-ups in the Red Sox front office, he responded to that claim from Alex Spear. He did that on WEEI.
We cannot force or mandate a player to get vaccinated. Players have rights that are very clearly outlined in a highly publicized collective bargaining agreement process that unfolded this offseason. We respect those rights. We play by the rules, and we cannot force or mandate that a player gets vaccinated. We can educate, we can encourage, we can ask, but we cannot force or mandate a player to get vaccinated, and I'll leave it at that.
I got to be honest. I don't get why this Trevor Story vaccine story is a story right now. Like, to me, this is a total nothing burger. We heard back in the spring that the Red Sox negotiations with Story nearly fell apart because of his lack of vaccination. So this whole thing about him not being vaccinated for a while, this is not new. This is not new news. And to me, this whole thing is not that big a deal. What is everybody upset about? Okay, they say the Red Sox mandated him to get vaccinated. Sam Kennedy says they can't mandate you. Fine. They didn't mandate him. They put $140 million in front of him and said, this offer is conditional on you getting vaccinated. Like, that's exactly what happened. Fine, they didn't mandate him, but they said, if you want this money, it comes with the condition you get vaxxed. This is not news to me. This is not new. This is not news. And this isn't that big a deal to me. What is everyone upset about? Everyone is bothered that the Red Sox could flex on Trevor Story, but they can't flex on Durant or on Houck or Sale? Is that what this is about? Because if that's what this is about, I implore you to recognize that these situations are completely different. Okay? I understand Sam Kennedy trying to defend himself. They can't outright force Story or anyone to get vaccinated. But the Red Sox had a conditional offer. They had massive leverage against Story. To me, you don't have to apologize for that. And the Red Sox have leverage against Story they didn't have against any of their own guys. Sale, Durant, Houck, all of them were already under contract. There's no leverage the Red Sox have. It's collectively bargained that they cannot mandate the vaccine. So those 3 players, Cutter Crawford included, right? So 4 players, they're already under contract. They're already in the family. So you could cut them and lose the team control and eat the money. Red Sox don't want to do that. So that wasn't an option. And you just, so if you can't force them and you don't want to cut them, you just kind of take it as it goes. So they had no leverage over those players. They had leverage on Story. They could tell, they had total leverage on Story. Like, look back to March, right? When the lockout ended, Story had already turned down a deal with the Mariners, right? He turns down a deal with the Mariners. They then pivot, go get other guys, so they're out. So that's a move off the chessboard for Story. The Tigers had gotten Javi Baez. They were out. The Rangers got Semien and Corey Seager, so they were out. There weren't many moves left on the board. It was late in the spring. Story wants the paycheck. He wants the money. He doesn't want a one-year deal, and he wanted it all to come together quickly. So Story looks around and says, what? Okay, this is $140 million that's in front of me. Yeah, and the Red Sox say yes, if you get vaccinated. That's not a mandate. That's not a force. That's what we call leverage. I don't understand why this is a big deal. Alex Spear writes that the Red Sox said basically, get vaccinated or you can't play here. Okay. That is what we call leverage. Players have it sometimes. Teams have it sometimes. The Red Sox had it in this case. Story didn't have anywhere else to go. The Rockies, his old team had gotten Chris Bryant. They were gone. Tigers were gone. Rangers were gone. Mariners were gone. Yankees weren't making a move. They went and got Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, I believe, before the Red Sox signed Story. The only thing that was left was the deal, basically, that Carlos Correa got from the Twins, that 3-year deal with a bunch of 1-year opt-outs, and that wasn't as much money. You look around, Story had no leverage. He had nowhere else to go back to and say, I'll just go play there. The Red Sox said, we have a deal. And the deal comes with a condition that you get vaccinated. This, to me, is a non-story. I don't understand why people are bothered by this. I don't even understand why this is coming out today. For all the vaccine talk we've had in the last couple of months, and for all the vaccine talk we've had in the last couple of days, this one seems like a total nothing story to me. And Will Fleming of WEEI talked about it yesterday on the broadcast.
I think the difference is you dangle 140 million reasons in front of them to do it, and you say, we'd love to have you, and yet we really are going to play these hugely important games in Toronto, and we need you available for those. So if you want the big bucks, then that's just part of it.
There you go. They had the leverage. They used it. Not a big deal to me there. What is a bigger deal, what is more interesting to me, is that Alex Cora basically said on WEEI yesterday that he was willing to bet that later in the season or in the playoffs when the Red Sox play Toronto, things are going to be different. So he either thinks the government's going to change the rule or he thinks his players are going to get vaccinated. I have to assume it's the latter. That Alex Cora says, I'm willing to bet that later in the year, in the playoffs or in the last road series of the year, I'm willing to bet that our guys are going to have a different mindset. And my question is, there's two thoughts to this, right? On one hand, that's good to know. If you are a Red Sox fan, if you are a Red Sox player, it should feel good to know that this issue might not be an issue later in the year, that if you play the Blue Jays in the playoffs, you're going to be at full strength or close to it. That has to be good to know if you're a Red Sox fan, that you'll go into the last series of the season or last road series of the year or the playoffs, and you very well may have Sale, Houck, and Durant, and Crawford all available to you. That's got to make you feel good. that his belief that things will change by then has to make you feel good. But on the other hand, my question is, if those four guys, the four unvaccinated Red Sox, or a subset of them, are willing to get vaccinated at the end of the season, why have they not just done it already? Because, like, there is a line. Like, there clearly is a point where these players then would be willing to get vaccinated, right? If Cora believes that the playoffs come around and these guys are going to be available, clearly there is a line where they will walk up to it and say, okay, we will do it. So if there is a line, if there is a line, why has it just not been done already? If you can tell yourself there is a situation where I will get vaccinated, why have you just not done it already? If you're never going to get vaccinated and you don't care about hurting the team and you don't care about your money and you don't care about career, then fine. If you're never going to get vaccinated and you don't care about any, you're willing to throw all that other stuff away, then so be it. But if Alex Cora seems to believe that there is a line that these players will go to and say, okay, this is what will force me to do it. So if that line is there, why has it just not happened already? Will Fleming kind of wondered the same thing.
He told all of us today that it will be different in September, that he's willing to bet that those guys will be available in September. And that certainly is eye-opening and newsworthy. And if that's the case, then why in the world isn't that the case right now? That part is just as frustrating to me. But
yes, exactly. Like, I understand the urgency of the end of the season. I understand you want to win a title, but the regular season games in April matter just as much as the regular season games in September do. So if you're willing to sell out the personal freedoms for the team at the end of the year, why has it just not been done already? Again, I'm not judging you right now, at least. But if there comes a point where you're going to say, you know what, my personal freedom is no longer worth the impact it could have on the team or on me, then that line was always there, and this probably should have just been done earlier in the season. We will get to one last vaccination storyline later in the show with the Red Sox, but now I want to ask some of these questions to Buster Olney. Buster's going to be with us next, and I'll just ask him, does he think the Trevor Story is a big deal? Because I think this is a whole lot of nothing. Buster's with us next on DEV.
Northfield Savings Bank is proud to sponsor WDEV at 90. Whether you're a builder, a maker, or a doer, at Northfield Savings Bank, we are proud to be the bank for Vermonters and Vermont businesses. Find out more about us at nsbvt.com. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
The Vermont State Colleges are the Community College of Vermont, Castleton University, Northern Vermont University, and Vermont Technical College. We exist for the benefit of Vermont. We provide diverse college experiences for Vermont students and the qualified workforce needed to grow the state's economy. We are your Vermont State Colleges. Vermonters have access to quality higher education no matter where they live. With locations within 25 miles of most households, as well as online, our state colleges are accessible to everyone. 83% of our students are Vermonters. They come to us for personal growth, career training, and better job opportunities. 2/3 of our graduates continue to live and work in Vermont, and our programs align with Vermont's workforce needs. Our students go on to provide healthcare, create new businesses, educate our children, design and engineer solutions in new technology, and more. These are the professionals that create a dynamic community and a thriving economy. Look to your Vermont State Colleges to drive Vermont's future at yourfuture.vsc.edu.
As Vermonters, we know that so much depends on the weather. When you need a reliable local weather forecast, it's literally at your fingertips with the WDEV weather phone. Locally dial 244-1172 or toll free at 1-800-585-1211. Roger Hill's weather forecast is just a phone call away on the WDEV weather phone, 244-1172 or 1-800-585-1211.
If you suffer from joint pain from arthritis or an injury, you know the traditional treatments, pain meds and steroids, and then surgery, right? Now there's a better way from the local medical professionals at QC Kinetics. QC Kinetics is the nation's leader in regenerative medicine. This is an advanced, exciting, and natural alternative that can give you lasting relief using your body's own healing power. Listen, steroid shots are toxic to your joints, pain meds are addictive, and nobody wants to go under the knife. It's 2022, and those old ways are out, and the new ways are in. Regenerative medicine can restore and repair damaged joint tissue using the natural biologics. No drugs, no downtime, no surgery. QC Kinetics regenerative protocols can address any pain in any joint and give you quality of life you deserve. Call now and schedule your free consultation. 802-PAINLESS. That's 802-PAINLESS. Treatments are not yet FDA approved. Think you know sports better than Brady does? Text in with your thoughts at 802-585-3026.
All the insight into everything going on in baseball. It's time for our weekly conversation with ESPN baseball insider and Vermont native, Buster Olney.
I'm just about ready to bet the family farm in Vermont.
On the Brady Farkas Show on WDEV AM, FM, and WDEVradio.com.
Welcome back in, Brady Farkas Show, right here on WDEV, AM and FM, and WDEVradio.com. Full show tonight, all 90 minutes. Red Sox off today. They get an afternoon contest at Wrigley tomorrow, coming off losing 2 of 3 to the Blue Jays. And joining us now is our ESPN MLB insider, Buster Olney. Buster, happy Thursday. How are you?
I'm doing okay. Fired up for everything going on in baseball right now. It's actually a great time.
Yeah, well, it's a great time for actual baseball conversation, but right now in New England, we're not having actual baseball conversation. We're having vaccine conversations still. And I've been getting this question a lot over the last 2 days. How do we think that Tanner Houck's teammates feel about this whole thing? Red Sox lose the other day, blown save, Houck's not available. I have said all along, I got to think his teammates are actually largely okay with everything because players are really good at staying out of other players' business, whether it be families or contracts. I kind of see this as an extension of that. Do you agree with me, or do you think this is a bigger deal in the clubhouse?
I do agree with you, and I think there's been an evolution in clubhouse culture in baseball over the last 30 years. And I started covering in 1989. I think in the early 90s, you would have had veteran players at Tanner Houck's locker, Jaron Durant's locker, basically saying, what are you doing? Let's go. You owe it to us with the team. I think now more and more, and that the players are more isolated in terms of what they expect out of each other. You walk into a clubhouse these days, and it's just like any other place where you see 20 players not really talking to each other, but looking down at their phones. And I don't mean that as a judgment, but I just think that's where they are. And I think generally speaking, the feeling is going to be, hey, it's his business. Now, I will tell you that, part of the reason why the Yankees, for example, got all their players vaccinated was because of peer conversations. Guys going to other guys saying, look, we can't be at a competitive disadvantage when we go to Toronto. I think part of the reason why the Blue Jays got all the players vaccinated was along the same line. And you do wonder, after what happened in Toronto this week, if there'll be conversations among the Red Sox players. In some respects, I almost feel like it's fortunate for the Red Sox to have this become such an issue now, so it potentially can be dealt with before the last week of the regular season when the Red Sox play the Blue Jays in 3 games, and then in the playoffs, because it certainly looks like there's a decent chance Red Sox and Blue Jays could be facing each other.
Absolutely. And, Alex Cora said yesterday that he'd be willing to bet things will be different later in the season when it comes to playing in Toronto. And I guess the question is, if guys are potentially willing to get vaccinated then why not now?
Yeah, and each individual, makes his own decision on that. But I've known Chris Sale, a long time. I think he's a great teammate. And if a situation begins to evolve where it looks like that, the Red Sox will play that first round in Toronto and he wouldn't be available for that, or in that last week of the regular season, he wouldn't be available for that, I wonder if he'll change his mind. I think that's what changed for Aaron Judge, who is a leader of the Yankee clubhouse. He got COVID last year. He was not vaccinated. And going into spring training, it was an open question whether or not he would be vaccinated. Same with Anthony Rizzo. Those guys changed, I think, in part because of and I haven't had this conversation with them specifically about this, but I've heard from other people. I think they felt like, look, we owe it to the other players. And I do wonder, as we get close to the playoffs, Sale, Tanner Houck, Durant will have a different feeling.
Last vaccine question. There was a story out months ago from Jeff Passan, your colleague, about Trevor Story's free agent pursuit and how part of the issue around him was his lack of vaccination. It seemed pretty clear to me that the Red Sox, I would not say they didn't force him to get vaccinated, but I would certainly think they said, we're not going to sign you if you don't. This all of a sudden has become a story again this week because it's something that Alex Spear wrote in the Boston Globe. I don't even know why this is a story. Like, to me, it was known all along the Red Sox weren't going to sign Story unless he got vaccinated.
That's exactly right. It was a litmus test it was a must-have in that conversation. The Red Sox made it very clear in that negotiation to Story's representatives that he needed to get vaccinated in order to sign the deal. Now, subsequently, as you know, Story fired his representative.
Yeah.
He told friends that he felt like he didn't have that piece of information, and maybe that would have changed things. The one thing I would say about that is, it was always Trevor Story's prerogative to walk away from $140 million if he didn't want to get the vaccination, and he didn't do that.
Mm-hmm.
So I wouldn't necessarily put it on the agent.
Buster Olney of ESPN with us here on the Brady Farkas Show on WDEV, AM and FM, and WDEVradio.com. Let's get to the on-field stuff now. Alex Cora told WEEI yesterday that it pretty much looks like they're going to put Garrett Whitlock back in the bullpen upon his return. Do you think that solidifies this bullpen, or are there still moves to be made for this team as we approach the deadline?
No, I still think there are moves to be made. Look, I was talking with a couple general managers whose teams are perceived to be sellers this week, and what I got back was, every contender is going to add bullpen depth. From the teams that have great bullpens, from the Yankees, the teams that have theoretically suspect bullpens like the Red Sox, everybody's going to focus on adding depth. And you know this too, like relievers go up and down constantly.
Yeah.
Guys who struggled at one point suddenly find it. Craig Kimbrell is a great example of that, where, at the end of his run with the Red Sox, he was kind of a high wire act. He didn't know what you were going to get. And then he went to the Cubs and he was a shutdown guy. And then he went to the White Sox and he wasn't very good. And now he's with the Dodgers and he's kind of a high wire act to some degree. So I think if, whether you're the Red Sox or the Yankees, you're just going to try to add as many options as you can because you just don't know exactly who's going to be hot or not. How about Joe Kelly back in 2018, who wasn't even going to be on the Red Sox roster? He started to throw his curveball more, and all of a sudden he was a completely dominant reliever in October.
Buster, I'm admitting to you now, I hate the question I'm about to ask you, but I feel like it's an important one to ask. So I'm going to ask it slowly because there's a couple of different tentacles to it. But Kike Hernandez is going to come back from the injured list here at some point soon. Jarren Durant and Rob Refsnyder have both been great for this team, and they both deserve spots on this roster. But when Kike comes back, it's extremely hard to make room for all three of them. There's a few things that can be done, and I don't know what's best. Refsnyder can't get sent down because he's out of options. He'd have to go through waivers. So that's not really an option. So you can send Durant down, which hurts the team because he's played so well. You could send Christian Arroyo down and lose your utility infielder. You could send one of Bobby Dahlbeck and Franchi Cordero down and lose your first base platoon, or you could just outright get rid of Jackie Bradley Jr. Do any of those four appeal to you more than another?
Well, it's the path of least resistance to me, which is, and I hear this from general managers all the time, where they want to keep as many options as possible. So among the possibilities that you have laid out, sending Durant to the minor leagues, if in fact everybody stays healthy up until that moment, is the easiest way to go. And so many teams will do that, right? We saw the Mets recently send Dominic Smith to the minor leagues because they didn't want to have to make a choice about cutting somebody. Unless they've internally decided, you know what, we just don't think Jackie Bradley Jr. is going to hit. Or if they feel like, look, we don't think this player is necessarily going to help us, that makes it easier to make that decision. But generally speaking, teams will prefer to keep as many options on the table as possible. And look, Durant, that's why I think there was a lot of surprise in baseball about Durant in the vaccine, was that it was almost like he was presenting a window to the Red Sox about whether or not they could survive without him.
And I completely agree with that as well. So, Buster Olney of ESPN with us here on the Brady Farkas Show. A couple of minutes left. You made headlines at WEEI last week with your report about Aaron Judge being a possibility for the Red Sox. I went through our archives. You told us that back on May 19th, so this has been out there from you for a while now. How realistic do you think the Judge to the Sox rumors are, or is this all just a leverage play to get the money up from the Yankees?
Well, and just to be clear, it's all speculation
Yes,
at this
correct.
point. And what I laid out in the piece was total. It wasn't sourced. There was nothing about this person told me this. It was just looking at the landscape of possibilities and saying, here's the one way you could see that Judge would become an option for the Red Sox. And personally, and I think I said this to you last week, I don't think it's going to happen. Like, I don't see it being a case. The one possibility I think would be if the Red Sox, everything turns into such a disaster that you see ownership boomerang, which they've done in the past. Ben Cherington had the rebuild program, and ownership didn't like it, so they flipped to Dave Dombrowski. Dave Dombrowski, spent resources, they win a championship, and then they boomeranged and went back another way. If ownership was unhappy with what happened with Bogart's negotiations, Devers' negotiations, fan response to 2022, that would be the one scenario where you could see, oh my goodness, you know what? We need an anchor. We need a star. Let's grab for Judge. Again, I don't think that would happen. If I'm sitting here today, I think the chance of it happening about 0.1%. But they're a big market team, and they always have that option.
Buster, get you out of here on this last question. You have made very clear to me over the 5 years we've been talking, you are not a unwritten rules guy. You are not a brawl guy. That said, we did have a brouhaha between the Angels and Mariners last Sunday. We had the benches clear yesterday between the Red Sox and Blue Jays. So I know you're not a brawl guy, but do you have a favorite brawl is the wrong way of asking it. The best brawl you've ever seen?
Well, the scariest one, without a doubt, Yankees and Orioles, 1998.
Yes. Armando Benitez.
That's right. Armando Benitez drilled Tino Martinez on purpose after giving up a home run to Bernie Williams. And it was actually the second time that Armando had thrown at Tino. And then the Yankees players come out, Darryl Strawberry, and then from the bullpen, Graham Lloyd, Jeff Nelson. They went out to beat up Armando Benitez. Like, they went after him. The whole thing spilled over into the Orioles dugout, and that's where Alan Mills, who was one of the nicest people I ever met in baseball, but when a fight would break out, he would go from Clark Kent to Superman. He pummeled Darryl Strawberry in the Orioles dugout. It was absolutely an insane brawl, even much nastier than what we saw the other day between the Mariners and the the Angels.
Well, that brawl is on YouTube. I encourage you to go find it if you haven't seen it or don't remember it. Buster Olney of ESPN. Buster, have a great 4th of July, a great 4th of July weekend, a great weekend for baseball, and certainly a lot of good storylines out there. So we will wish you a happy holiday, and we will talk to you next week.
Thanks, Brady.
Absolutely. Buster Olney of ESPN with us every single Thursday. And great stuff from Buster as always. Yeah, that Orioles-Yankees brawl he's talking about there in 98, that was nasty. I do encourage you to go find that on YouTube. I also think Cubs-White Sox, remember A.J. Pierzynski and Michael Barrett after a collision at the plate where Pierzynski just trucked Barrett? Robin Ventura, Nolan Ryan, where Ventura goes after Ryan and then Ryan gets him in a headlock, basically is punching him in the head. And, I think it was Cardinals, Reds, maybe. Yasiel Puig was in the middle of it. I remember Amir Garrett of the Reds fighting an entire team a couple of years ago. I think it was the Pirates. Like, there were some nasty brawls out there, even in the last couple of years. The one on Sunday between the Mariners and the Angels was pretty nasty, though. I mean, there were multiple players suspended, 12 people suspended for games out of that one. And, I'm glad that nothing happened last night between the Red Sox and the Blue Jays. I'm very glad about that because, look, Pivetta, I heard what he said after the game, and he was right. He did not try to hit Alejandro Kirk. It was in the third inning. There was 2 outs. There was already a guy on base. It was a tie game. You're about to get swept in a series potentially. The last thing that Pivetta wants to do is go and hit, Kirk on purpose to then bring up, the 4-5 hitters with guys on base in a 1-1 game. So I'm glad nothing really happened yesterday. I hope it doesn't carry over into later matchups this season because it certainly was not intentional. It's the Brady Farkas Show on WDEV. CBS News update, and then when we come back, KD wants out of Brooklyn and the NBA free agent period. It'll be open.
This is WDEV, Vermont's news station. Owned and operated by the Radio Vermont Group. From the top of Sugarbush, 96.1 FM, WDEV Warren and Waitsfield. 96.5 W243 Barrie. 98.3 W252 CU Montpelier. Along with our founding station, AM 550 WDEV Waterbury Montpelier. Streaming at WDEVradio.com. 90 years of serving Vermont. The friendly pioneer, WDEV.
This is CBS News on the Hour, sponsored by Facet Wealth.
I'm Monica Ricks in New York. Hundreds of Delta pilots are protesting in major cities nationwide. Pilot Laura Woods is outside LAX in LA.
We're here to send a unified message to our management that it's time to get serious at the bargaining table. We need a contract now.
They want better pay, benefits, and schedules. The picketing's happening as AAA says nearly 48 million people plan to travel this weekend. CBS's Peter King is in Orlando.
The roller bags are working overtime at Orlando International. Central Florida is AAA's top domestic destination this holiday weekend. Jim Delisle is from Waukesha, Wisconsin.
I came down to join up with my wife, who's down here coaching a national volleyball team.
3.5 million people are expected to fly during the holiday travel period, a slight increase over last year.
If you're driving anywhere, gas now costs an average of $4.85 a gallon.
I, Ketanji Brown Jackson, do solemnly swear.
I, Ketanji Brown Jackson, do solemnly swear.
Call her Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson. She was sworn in today as the nation's first Black woman on the Supreme Court. CBS's Jan Crawford.
She accepts the solemn responsibility of supporting and defending the Constitution without fear or favor. She says she's especially grateful for the time and attention given to me by the Chief Justice and Justice Breyer. Goes on to say he's been a personal mentor and friend.
Breyer retired today after 28 years. A Supreme Court victory for the Biden administration at the border. CBS's Stephen Portnoy explains.
This 5-4 ruling allows the Biden administration to move forward with its plans to wind down the Remain in Mexico program and have asylum seekers presenting themselves on the U.S. side of the border instead.
Protesters sang outside the Supreme Court today.
Down to the Supreme Court, and I took back what it stole from me.
They are angry less than a week after the court overturned Roe v. Wade. Today, President Biden said he'd support dropping the filibuster to codify it.
And if the filibuster gets in the way, it's like voting rights. It should be, we provide an exception for this.
He also said in meetings with world leaders here in Europe this week, his foreign counterparts don't believe the U.S. is going backwards.
CBS's Steve Dorsey. Brittany Griner's trial starts tomorrow in Russia. Here's CBS's Charlie Daggett.
Her wife, Sherelle, shared that Griner is struggling and terrified through letters.
I won't let them break me. I know they're trying to, but I'm going to do my best and just hold on until I can get home. I hope that that's quick because I'm not okay.
Russia expert Jeff Hahn says the Russians are holding Griner hostage.
This is CBS News.
Facet Wealth is an SEC-registered investment advisor. They offer customized financial planning for you, not just your assets. Learn more at facetwealth.com/Jill.
Municipal Resource Center, Nemrick, supporting one-of-a-kind local businesses like WDEV to preserve the distinct character of Vermont.
Hi, my name is Jeff Gould. I live in Barrie, Vermont, and run J. Gould Plumbing and Heating. I'm here to talk to you about Central Vermont Home Health and Hospice, an organization that is very dear to me and my sister Elizabeth's heart. CVHHH's hospice team cared for my mother, Barbara Gould, a nurse who worked for 50 years in this community at the end of her life. CVHHH's hospice nurses embraced me, my mom, and my family with warmth and kindness that helped us through a very painful time. They explained what to expect as Mom declined and were always available to answer our questions. Mom received the same high-quality care that she valued and provided as a nurse. Elizabeth and I are forever grateful. So please join Elizabeth and I and donate to Central Vermont Home Health and Hospice's Spring Appeal. Your gift ensures families like ours can access the loving care and one-on-one support in the comfort of home and at a time when it matters the most. Please donate at cvhhh.org. Thank you.
Mom used to scream about Dad's drinking. It drove me crazy till Mom went to Al-Anon. If someone's drinking troubling you, you might be surprised at what you can learn in an Al-Anon or Alateen family group from people just like you. Call 1-888-4-AL-ANON or go to alanon.org.
How well does your garden grow? Tune in Saturdays at 12:30 for In the Garden with Peter Burke. Peter and co-host Joel Nashman give you 1 full hour of the latest news, helpful tips, and your calls to talk about what's happening in your garden. It's brought to you in part by Guy's Farm and Yard. If it eats and grows, Guys can feed it. GuysFarmandYard.com. In the Garden with Peter Burke. Live Saturdays at 12:30. Hear the podcast anytime at WDEVradio.com. Your chance to be part of the show is on the text line at 802-585-3026.
This is Freddie Coleman of ESPN, and you're listening to Brady Farkas Show right here on WDEV and WDEVradio.com.
Welcome back in. Brady Farkas Show right here on WDEV, AM and FM, and WDEVradio.com. Encourage all of you and ask all of you to subscribe to the Brady Farkas Show podcast channel on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify and at WDEVradio.com. So just look, it's free podcast. Get our show right after it ends every day, all of our exclusive interviews as well. NBA free agency has officially started. All right, it started 5 minutes ago. The notifications are coming in fast and furious. We're going to keep you posted on everything that's happening in the NBA's free agent period. Anything with the Celtics that may happen here as they try to build a championship roster, we will bring it to you. Here's what we've got right now. There's a lot of things that have happened right at 6 o'clock. A lot of this comes from Shams Charania of Stadium. So Jalen Brunson, he's going to sign a 4-year, about $110 million deal. He's formerly of the Mavericks. He's going to the Knicks. As for Nikola Jokic, the two-time NBA MVP, the richest contract in NBA history, the 5-year, $264 million Supermax contract, he stays with the Denver Nuggets. The Phoenix Suns, they get Devin Booker, 4-year, $214 million Supermax contract extension. So there you go. Malik Monk, he's getting a deal with the Sacramento Kings. DeAndre Jordan, remember him, he's signing with the Denver Nuggets. Victor Oladipo, back to the Heat, 1 year, $11 million. PJ Tucker, leaving the Heat, going to the 76ers. That's a 3-year, $33 million deal. Bobby Portis, he's staying in Milwaukee, 4-year, $49 million deal. Then we know yesterday Dejounte Murray got traded from the Spurs to the Hawks. That was a big trade for Atlanta. And then, Kevin Durant now wants out of Brooklyn. He has told Brooklyn he wants to be traded. Daniel House, he's going to the 76ers. So all this is coming in fast and furious. The big news of the day thus far, I would say, is that obviously, number one, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 that Durant wants out of Brooklyn. Then the PJ Tucker thing going from Miami to Philadelphia, that's noteworthy as well. You see Celtics rivals making moves. The Nets clearly appear set to be getting worse. Philly just got better by getting PJ Tucker. Miami loses Tucker, but gets a healthy full year of Oladipo and their players for Durant. So Durant has said he wants to go to the Suns or the Heat. Those two teams are on his list. They don't have to trade him. Really, they don't have to trade him anywhere if they don't want to. But they're willing to move Durant. They just don't want to deal with the Durant and Kyrie stuff anymore, and they're set to hit the retool button again. So they're working to try to trade him. They may not send him where he wants to go, but he wants to go to either Phoenix or Miami. Bradley Beal, he signs a 5-year deal, $250 million with the it just goes back to the Wizards. My mistake. Looking here now, scrolling Twitter, Nicholas Batum, he goes to the Clippers again, 2 years, $22 million. That was a possible Celtics target there. So a lot of stuff happening here. Again, we will continue to try to bring you everything. So there's a lot there. But the NBA offseason is insane. I mean, Kevin Durant broke Twitter today at about 3:30 in the afternoon. When he requested his trade, Kevin Durant broke Twitter. I used to think that baseball had the best offseason, right? It was the hot stove league, and we had the winter meetings where everything went down. I used to think that baseball had the best offseason, but the NBA and lately the NFL, they have come in and just dwarfed baseball's activity level. You look at what's happened in the NFL the last few years, right, with the quarterbacks changing from Matt Stafford to Russell Wilson, the conversation around Aaron Rodgers, Deshaun Watson, Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold was traded. There's all this stuff about quarterbacks. And then all the wide receiver money now. Terry McLaurin, who just signed the other day to a big deal now in Washington. The NFL has become a soap opera. The NBA has already been a soap opera. It is just a wild scene how stars can control things, how stars can hold their teams hostages. It's wild that the Nets, a team that we thought could win a title as recently as a couple of months ago, is just dismantling. And it's just wild that Kyrie Irving has ruined another team. Make no mistake. Kevin Durant wants out of Brooklyn because of what Kyrie Irving has done. And I was one of the last ones on the boat. On the Kyrie Irving boat, I was one of the last ones. I didn't think it was his fault in Boston. I didn't think he was going to leave Boston. I thought that he was growing. Everyone else was talking bad about Kyrie. I defended him till the end. I was wrong. I have never been more wrong about an athlete than I've been about Kyrie Irving. This guy is a team killer. He killed Cleveland. Now, they had won a title, but he helped ruin Cleveland. He ruined Boston, and now he has ruined the Nets. As for teams that are looking to acquire Kyrie Irving, I wouldn't want him at this point. We are finally to the point. I've had this motto. How good you are dictates how big a distraction you can be. When you are so good, you can get away with a lot. Right? Think about it like a relationship. I had a co-host once, the hot to crazy scale. If you're dating a really attractive woman or a really attractive man, they can get away with being a little crazy, right? You'll put up with it because they're so good looking. The hot to crazy scale. Well, Kyrie Irving was a 10 on the hot to crazy scale. He's crazy, but you'll take him because he's so good. We are finally at the point where Kyrie Irving's drama is no longer worth it. It's no longer worth it. If I were an acquiring team, I would look the other way on Kyrie. I'm not buying him a drink at the bar. I'm not trying to take him to dinner. I'm not even asking him out for coffee. I am out of the Kyrie Irving business. He is a team killer. He ruined what could have been, I don't know if I'd call it a dynasty in Cleveland, but he ruined what could have been multiple title runs in Cleveland. He ruined the Celtics and set them back, and he ruined the Nets. I'm no KD supporter. KD is an NBA villain. I think the NBA needs him, but I'm no KD guy. But this has happened because of Kyrie Irving. Right? Kyrie was injured the year we went in the bubble. Can't really fault him for that, but Kyrie has been injury prone in his career. So he misses a bunch of that. And then the whole vaccine thing. Again, take your stance on the vaccine all you want. But this happened. The Nets grew frustrated with Kyrie because of his lack of availability. Kyrie didn't seem to care. And now he's not dependable. And Kevin Durant has seen that. He is not dependable. And KD wants out. This is a Kyrie Irving problem. It's fascinating how things can move so quickly in the NBA. Right? Atlanta got better yesterday getting Murray from the Spurs. Brooklyn's going to get worse. The Knicks get a little bit better getting Jalen Brunson. Celtics rivals are making news. Philly gets PJ Tucker. Miami might get Durant. I'm sure now we can check the last couple of moments that I've been talking, and there's probably more things that have happened. Tyus Jones, he's going back to the Grizzlies, 2-year, $30 million deal. That's actually bad news for the Celtics because that was one of the guys in that Ricky Rubio mold that maybe we had thought about them being able to get. So disappointed that that's not going to be the case. Keith Smith, who's a Celtics beat writer, says that's a steal for the Grizzlies at that money. Yeah, I would agree with that. Joe Ingles, the former Jazz guy, remember he's got with a torn ACL. He's looking to go to the Milwaukee Bucks. That's a move that will make them better, which is bad news for the Celtics as well. Trying to see exactly where we're at. Yeah, Peter says, agreed, Brady. NFL and NBA free agency way more exciting than the hot stove league, which develops over time. He's also talking about favorite Major League Baseball brawls. Oh, yeah, remember the Red Sox-Yankees, A-Rod and Veritek. That's got to be right near the top. A-Rod Veritek is a huge one. Don Zimmer and Pedro, a lot of good stuff. The Pine Tar game, yeah, George Brett. This is kind of a going psycho moments of people getting in on favorite brawls. But, yeah, NBA stuff is nuts. And still, if I'm the Celtics, I'd make a call on Kevin Durant. Every team in the league should be making a call on Kevin Durant. But if I'm the Celtics, I'm not doing most deals to get him. I just don't. Kevin Durant's 34 years old, right? He's going to be 34. You'd be signing up for his age 34 to 37 season. Do I want Kevin Durant from 34 to 37? Do I want to trade Jaylen Brown to get that? I don't. If there's a deal that involves Jaylen Brown, I'm not doing it. Unless it's Jaylen Brown for Kevin Durant straight up, I'm not doing it. And it would never be that. It would be Jaylen Brown. It would be Al Horford. It would be Grant Williams. It would be multiple first-round picks. It ceases to be worth it to me. If the Minnesota Timberwolves want to go give up assets for KD, then so be it. If the Suns want to trade away a bunch of good players to go get KD, then so be it. But I'm not going to be that guy. I'm not going to be that guy. Tex says Kyrie and Russell Westbrook ought to be forced to play on the same team. That would be a nightmare for an NBA owner. Russell Westbrook gets too much hate. I don't agree with the Russell Westbrook slander. If you don't like him as a player, that's one thing. Right? Like if you don't think he would mix with your team, you don't think he's a good shooter, that's all fine. Russell Westbrook is a good guy, good for the community, doesn't cause trouble, doesn't get in trouble, and plays every game. So Russell Westbrook is not an owner's nightmare in terms of how he acts. You might not like him as a player, but he is a guy who gets too much grief because he is a good guy. And I know that doesn't count for everything, but for a guy who plays every day, he gets too much grief. Will in Plattsburgh, is this also a reaction by KD given that the Warriors just won a title? I think KD has come to a realization that he left Steph Curry for Kyrie and that was a wrong choice. So I don't think it's like the Warriors won a title, so I have to get back at them. I don't think it's that. I think it's just like, damn, I left those guys for this. That might not have been bright. I need to get out. You can't hitch your star to Kyrie, and I think Durant is realizing that. Tex comes back in. Brady, you're right on Russell Westbrook. He does put in a full day's pay. He does play hard, does play a lot. So there you go. We're talking here about NBA teams changing quickly, right? They were having a very interesting debate on WEEI in Boston the other day about which Boston or New England executive is under the most pressure. And for me, so you got Chaim Bloom, Brad Stevens, Bill Belichick, Don Sweeney. I ask you that. Which one is under the most pressure? 802-585-3026. For me, I'm going with Brad Stevens. We're talking about the NBA, so that's kind of what's triggered my mind into this. For me, the Boston executive with the most pressure is Brad Stevens, and it's very close. Every single one of those guys has pressure, and they have a lot of it. But to me, Brad Stevens has the most, and that's what Lou Merlone of WEEI in Boston said too. He agrees.
I think it's Brad Stevens.
Why do you think it's Brad Stevens?
Because
saying that, Brad Stevens.
Yeah, because to me, it's like you went to the NBA Finals, you got close, you need obvious upgrades on this team. It's the NBA. Things can turn upside down within a year or two. If he doesn't go out and make the right moves this year and complement this roster, because that's the one team that is about championships right now. And you could argue the Sox might be the closest to number 2. But to me, Brad Stevens, with the core he has, he is the closest to a championship. They made it to the NBA Finals. It's now up to him.
Yeah, I agree with just about everything that Lou said there. Brad Stevens and the Celtics have gotten so close now. They've got to close the deal. They are also the franchise that is furthest removed from winning a title. Like, the Red Sox won a title in 2018. The Patriots have won recently. The Bruins won more recently than the Celtics. So you look at this combination, Brad Stevens is the furthest removed in time from winning a title. That puts inherent pressure. He's also the closest in terms of closing one out. That combination leads you to a massive amount of pressure and a massive sense of urgency. And that falls on Brad Stevens. And then if Kevin Durant goes to one of your rivals, well, there's even more pressure ratcheted on you. The time is now for the Boston Celtics. Brad Stevens' job is to capitalize on this window. For years, the Celtics were building. They were acquiring assets. They were hoarding draft picks. For years, the Celtics were building. They're finally there. The young guys have enough games under their belt. They've got playoff experience. They've got Eastern Conference Finals experience. They've got NBA Finals experience. And they've got an age level where they have a maturity that tells you that it's time. To me, the Celtics are no longer a young and budding team. They are a veteran team now that is ready to win a championship, and it is up to Brad Stevens to get them there. The Celtics have drafted well. They have developed well. It is time to take the next step. Brad Stevens is under the most pressure to help them take that next step. Every single one of them is under pressure. Brad Stevens is under the most. I mean, look, Don Sweeney fired a successful head coach in Bruce Cassidy. That's kind of a last-ditch effort there, and it puts the target right on you. He's trying to squeeze every ounce out of an aging core, and if he doesn't, then the opportunity to rebuild will have been missed, and he'll probably be out of the job. So Don Sweeney is under pressure. Bill Belichick's under pressure because of what Robert Kraft said. Like, I'm not happy about not winning a playoff game in 3 years. Robert Kraft's age dictates his high level of urgency, and the pressure that comes with that falls on Belichick. As good as he's been, Bill Belichick doesn't have a lifetime contract. Mac Jones is in year 2 of 5 of a rookie deal. We always talk and tout the rookie deal, how good it is, how you need to win while you're on it. Well, we're in it now. It's time for Bill Belichick to win again. There's pressure on him to capitalize. And then Chaim Bloom has looming pressure. What's up with Bogarts? What's up with Devers? Am I going to let another star go away like I let Mookie out of here? There's pressure on all of them. But to me, Brad Stevens is the guy with the most. We get a text in that says Stevens is definitely the guy under the most pressure. I agree. I absolutely agree with you there. The texter on the Napa Morrisville, Napa Waterbury text line. A couple other deals. Javon Carter, guard we saw in the playoffs for Milwaukee. He goes back to Milwaukee on a 2-year deal. Wes Matthews also back to Milwaukee. So the Bucks right now staying intact largely, seeing what they can do in the Eastern Conference, hoping that they can get healthier again. So let's see where I want to go. I got so much I want to get to. Let's go here. Let's get to who's saying what.
Whoa. What did he say? Mac Jones? Good Lord. Mel Kiper's got to slow down on this. Mac Jones ain't going to work, folks. It's not going to work. You just got to come to terms with it. It's not going to work. They really said that?
Every damn thing is politics and race, and I'm losing my mind over it.
It's time for Who's Saying What on the Brady Farkas Show on WDEV AM, FM, and WDEVradio.com.
Who's Saying What is brought to you by Vermont Laser Wash. That's Central Vermont's home of unlimited car washes beginning at just $20 a month. If you want one free car, so unlimited car wash is $20 a month. One free car wash, just text the word Vermont to the number 30 and then 400. I ask you out there, all of you, the audience, baseball fans, how do you view the Aaron Judge situation? I want you to listen to what Tim Kirkchin of ESPN had to say, and I want you to think about this.
This is going to set up for a fascinating situation after the season. Let's just say Judge hits 62 homers. The Yankees win the World Series. How in the world are you going to justify not bringing him back? And yet he's 30 years old. He's got a history of injuries. He's a big man whose body, in theory, could break down. It's a hard game to play, period, especially when you're playing every day at 6'7", 282. but I think the Yankees have to do everything they can to get him re-signed.
It's a fascinating question, really. Let's say it plays out exactly like Tim Kurkjian says. Judge hits 62 homers, and the Yankees win the World Series. What do you do in that situation? Because I think there's really two ways of looking at this one. You can give Judge whatever you want and know that if he breaks down in 5 years out of a 10-year deal or so, you can just kind of rest on the fact that you won this title and maybe you won again, in the early part of the deal, right? Like, if you win the title this year and Judge gets 62 home runs, you give him whatever he wants. 10 years, $380 million. You know it's not a great deal. You know it's not great business, but you say, look, we won. We can rest on that, and if the end of the deal doesn't look so good, we'll always have this one. Or you can let Aaron Judge go. You let him go in free agency, and you say, you know what? We won a title. We got his best years. Now we freed up all this money. We can keep getting better by signing new players, and because we won a title, that'll soften the blow of Aaron Judge leaving. I think those two ways are both reasonable ways to look at this scenario. Give Judge whatever he wants and say, hey, we won the title. Doesn't really matter now if he breaks down and isn't that good because we've always got this one. Or you let him go and say, hey, we won the title. Now we'll let him go. We're not going to overpay. We'll go to work on winning another one. What do you do if you're the Yankees in that situation? I can rationalize both sides here. Okay? I can rationalize both sides. And I've thought a lot about this in the last 2 days since I heard Tim Kurkjian say this. I think very begrudgingly, if the Yankees win the World Series, Judge is the MVP, has those 62 home runs, very begrudgingly, I'm inclined to give Aaron Judge what he wants. If it's 10 for 380, then so be it. I know it's bad business. I'm 100% know it's bad business. But I tend to think that if this is how it plays out, the Yankees should do it. The Yankees will have won this year under Tim Kurkjian's scenario. They'll have chances to win in the next 2 to 3 years. Well, Judge is still very, very good. I know the deal is going to fall off a cliff at some point. I know the Yankees are going to regress in the back half of that deal when Judge is aging and Stanton's aging and Garrett Cole is aging. I know that. I know it's bad business to pay a 30-year-old 10-year deal, $380 million. I know it's bad business. But if that's the way it plays out, I think the Yankees begrudgingly just have to probably go ahead and do it. Aaron Judge is a homegrown player. You treat homegrown players differently. Giancarlo Stanton is a hired gun. Letting him go wouldn't cause you a whole lot of problem. Garrett Cole is a hired gun. Letting him go wouldn't cause a whole lot of problems. It would hit different if you let Aaron Judge go. I see Mookie Betts and ask you to look at that. Right? Red Sox fans have not forgiven Chaim Bloom, even after winning a title, for letting Mookie Betts go. I know it worked out for the Cardinals to let Albert Pujols go, but the Yankees can afford it. To bring back a homegrown player, to bring back a homegrown star, I would do it. You give him what he wants. And what you hope if you're the Yankees is that you nail your draft picks and you nail your minor league system, because that's what you're going to need. If you got Stanton, Cole, and Judge making $1 gazillion, you better nail everything else. So if I'm Brian Cashman and he's the MVP, 60 homers, you win the World Series, I give him the money and I say, in the minor league system, we better start nailing everything, because at some point when our guys are old and breaking down, we're going to need young players to turn to. That's why the Yankees got out of the mess they were in before. Remember, they did this once. CeCe Sabathia, Brian McCann. They brought in all these guys that were older players, and they all broke down. The Yankees were bad. And then Judge, Sanchez, Gleyber Torres, these guys brought them back from the abyss. That's what you're looking for. So you pay Judge and you figure out everything else in your minor league system. 802-585-3026. Let's see if there are any more. Let's see if there's any more NBA stuff. Can we pull up the Shams Charania feed here? No one that most people care about here. Dwayne Dedman goes to the Miami Heat. Again, he goes back on a 2-year deal. Nothing really big just yet. The Durant stuff is kind of what we're waiting on, and I don't think that's going to be resolved today. I don't think it's going to be resolved today. I do want to get to one last thought on Judge. John Heyman, Baseball Insider, he listed the Red Sox as a possible landing spot for Aaron Judge. My question is, how realistic is that actually? How realistic is it that Aaron Judge could go to the Red Sox? Buster Olney told us he thinks it's 0.01%. So it's not likely in Buster's eyes, but Heyman said it was a spot, so we'll talk about it here briefly. I think it's a possibility that Judge goes to the Red Sox because it's anything is a possibility, right? There's like nothing almost that's impossible. So we have to list it as a possibility that Aaron Judge could go to the Red Sox. I do not think it's likely, but I think we're going to hear more and more about the Red Sox being players for Judge because that's really good for the Aaron Judge business. If the Red Sox are thought to be involved, they have deep pockets and they're your hated rivals. The last thing the Yankees want is spin out there that the Red Sox are involved. That's going to drive up the Yankees' price, and that's going to make them more willing to pull the trigger. It's also great if the Mets are involved in the conversation because it works the exact same way. So, yeah, I think it's possible that Aaron Judge could sign with the Red Sox, but I'd say unlikely. The Red Sox need to sign Devers and Bogarts before they worry about Judge, and I think really a lot of this is just a negotiating ploy. I think a lot of this is just a way to drive up the price on the Yankees. Hey, let's get the guys with the other deep pockets in here. Red Sox and Mets. Now the Yankees, you got to match it and go above. I think that's a lot of what this is. It's the Brady Farkas Show on WDEV, AM and FM, and WDEVradio.com. Jesse in Pittsfield says Red Sox don't want Judge. I don't buy that. I think the Red Sox would want Judge. They just don't want Judge under the conditions it's going to come on, right? Like, if Aaron Judge wants an 8-year deal worth $330 million, the Red Sox don't want to give that. But you can't say the Red Sox don't want Judge. If Aaron Judge would sign a 1-year, $47 million deal, you don't think the Red Sox would go for it? I do. I absolutely do. You play, look, Jackie Bradley Jr. has been playing in right field a lot. Next year you go with Verdugo, Durant, and Judge. The Red Sox would absolutely want that. 1 year, $50 million, they'd do it. What they don't want is 8 years, 10 years for a 31-year-old player. So I think, yeah, the Red Sox would want him, but they don't want him at his age at that money. And if they have to give out that kind of money, they should want to give it to Devers and to Bogarts. Another text on the Napa Morrisville, Napa Waterbury text line. What if Judge has a great year and they don't win the World Series? Do you bring him back? Oh, man. If he has a great year and they don't win the World Series, I would say that it's a cop-out answer. It depends on the rest of the offseason. And what I mean is that if you think you can get what Judge gave you on the free agent market across 2 or 3 players, then maybe I'd let him go. Maybe I'd let him go. If they don't win the World Series, would I go to Judge right away and say, look, we want you. We want you back here. We value you. We need you, but we need you to take a little bit less. And maybe a little bit less is, at this point, 10 for 300 instead of 10 for 350 or 10 for 380. It's still going to be way up there, but you go to him and say, we need you to take less so we can go get other people. That's probably your first shot. Another text, Yankees ought to get rid of Stanton, period. Keep Judge. I mean, yeah, I'd like to get rid of Stanton too. However, they really can't. I mean, Stanton is under contract for like 1 million years. So let's look up exactly where Stanton's at right now. I mean, Stanton had a 13-year contract when he signed it with the Marlins. He's only 32 years old. Giancarlo Stanton has, after this year, Stanton has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He's got 5 years left on his deal, and then the 6th is a club option. I mean, Giancarlo Stanton has 5 for 64, 96. Basically got 5 for 150 until he's 37 years old. I mean, you can't just get rid of him. You're not cutting him. And I don't know who's trying to trade for a guy who's going to be 37, has been off injured. Now, Stanton, to his credit, has played certainly a lot better this year, right? He's played 62 games. He's hitting 244. That's lower than I thought. He does have 19 homers. He does have 52 RBIs. I mean, he's on pace for 40 and 100. I mean, that's pretty good. I don't know that it's worth, the contract now is not terrible, right? It's 5 for 150. The contract at this moment is not awful, but I don't want Stanton until he's 37. I don't think that anybody is lining up to trade for that. So if he's still good in 3 years and it's 2 for 50, then teams will probably be lining up for it. But right now, it's still not a very easily to move contract. It is the Brady Farkas Show on WDEV. We're talking about the NBA, all quiet on the Celtics front right now, except Marcus Smart taking a shot at his detractors. I totally agree with what he has to say. It's next on DEV.
For 75 years, a single stage has created thousands of magical summer memories. St. Michael's Playhouse.
My wife and I get a date night, so we get to hold hands and laugh.
Award-winning plays, acclaimed actors, area premieres. No wonder the New York City Drama League calls the Playhouse one of the best regional theater companies in America.
You become so engrossed in the emotions and what they're doing, you forget everything else. So it really does become a date night.
Don't miss the hilarious and uplifting new comedy Into the Breaches, June 29 through July 9th. The year is 1942, and all the leading men in the Oberon Playhouse cast of Henry V are overseas fighting for freedom. Determined to keep the theater going, an all-female cast is assembled, delivering a performance celebrating collaboration and persistence, and reminding us that the show must go on. For tickets to Into the Breaches, June 29 through July 9th, go to stmichaelsplayhouse.org.
You don't get to be the league's all-time leading rusher without feeling some pain.
Pro football legend Emmitt Smith knows joint pain, and he also knows the old treatments aren't the only treatments. Today, there's a natural alternative to drugs and surgery. It's biologic therapies from QC Kinetics.
I'm talking regenerative solutions that encourage your body to heal and repair itself.
Do you have pain in your hips, knees, shoulder, lower back? Want to get your life back? The local medical professionals at QC Kinetics can help.
Call to learn more about this exciting natural way to deal with chronic joint pain.
Don't put it off. Call QC Kinetics. Restorative regenerative solutions with no downtime and lasting results.
Don't let your joint pain keep you from doing the things you love. There's a new natural solution that patients are raving about.
QC Kinetics.
Make the call to QC Kinetics. Tell them Emmitt Smith sent you.
Call QC Kinetics. 802-PAINLESS. That's 802-PAINLESS. QC Kinetics. 802-PAINLESS. That's 802-PAINLESS.
Treatments are not yet FDA approved.
Folks, Dan Keene here at Lamoille Valley Ford, where we're still ordering for less. Tell them, kid.
That's right, Dan. Business is cranking here at Lamoille Valley Ford, and we're retail ordering new vehicles for less. Although the factories are going through model year changeovers, we are still accepting orders for the entire Ford lineup of Ford trucks and SUVs. Not only will our customers be at the front of the line when the new models roll out, but they'll be paying less at Lamoille Valley Ford too, and here's why. Right now, when you order your new Ford with us, Lamoille Valley Ford will take an additional $1,000 off MSRP, and that's on top of factory incentives and huge trade allowances. And speaking of trades, I want you to know our lot is jam-packed with more clean, late-model pre-owned cars, trucks, and SUVs than ever, and we're making deals to sell them down. And remember this, if you need a vehicle today, at Lamoille Valley Ford, we have the largest stock of new Fords in Vermont.
Woo! So drive Route 14, 15, or 16 to Hardwick, where you can order your new Ford for less at Lamoille Valley Ford.
Make your opinion heard by texting onto the Brady Farkas Show at 802-585-3026.
This is Field Yates of ESPN, and you're listening to the Brady Farkas Show on WDEV Radio and the WDEV app.
Welcome back in, Brady Farkas Show right here on WDEV. The show brought to you in part by Pro Driver Training. That's Pro Driver Training, Vermont's premier truck driver training school, online at prodrivercdl.com. Text in on the Napa Morrisville, Napa Waterbury text line. Brady, awesome show today. More proof that full shows are so invaluable to us. I I enjoy the full shows as well. So I appreciate a chance to have a full show. Tomorrow won't be a full show. Red Sox game will probably take us till about 6, but we will have an hour, which is better than our 30 or 40-minute shows sometimes. And then Peter says, and 5 years, $150 million for Stanton, that can be moved. I'm sure the Mets and Steve Cohen would take Stanton if they can't get Judge. That is interesting. Maybe I did write it off too quickly that Stanton's contract is unmovable. Seeing that tweet, thinking about it a little bit in the commercial break, 5 years for 150, it's no longer, look, when it was 8 for 210 or whatever, you weren't moving that 3 years ago. 5 for 150, and now with the DH in both leagues, that is something that I think the Yankees might be able to move. Again, Stanton's got an injury history. The contract will go until he's 37 years old. But there's two ways of looking at this, right? And here's what makes it interesting. I wouldn't think it would take a lot to get rid of Stanton, right? But here's kind of the ways you could think about it. The Yankees could trade Stanton for not much, right? Not a lot of prospects, right? A couple of low-level prospects, a couple of lottery tickets. They're not looking for the player. They're looking for the salary relief. Hey, we will trade Giancarlo Stanton to X team. You're not going to get much in return, but that team is going to pay a lot of it. And now you've got money to go and sign Judge and go get other players. Now the challenge is, can you get better players than Stanton, right? Can you use that savings to go get better players than Stanton? Remains to be seen. And then the other way of looking at it is you are basically, you're going to go get good prospects, but you're going to pay a lot of the deal, right? You're going to trade Stanton somewhere. You're going to get some good prospects, but you're going to have to pay 120 of the 150 million. Well, if I'm going to pay 120, I might as well just keep Stanton, right? Because I'm not really saving anything. So it does get complex when you start thinking about that. I would think that the Yankees could trade Stanton, maybe not get a lot, but I don't know who else is going to want to pay that. Who's going to pay Stanton 110 of the $150 million until he's 37? I don't know. I don't know. We'll see. Could my Mariners do it? My Mariners need a bat really badly. Could my Mariners trade? They have money. They have prospects. Could they give up low-level prospects and just use that money? It's possible. But I still think it's a hard contract to move. It's not as bad as it was 3 years ago. But this is a question for Buster. When we have Buster on next, this is a question for him. So 802-585-3026. Good question, though. Good question, though, about that. All right. Marcus Smart clapped back at his critics the other day, and I, for one, totally agree with him. So he spoke to the Boston Globe, and he said, and this is a quote, "I think I proved a little bit of everything. I hear the talks about he's not a true point guard and this and that. I hear that they need a star point guard. Well, we've had star point guards. And yet this so-called non-point guard is the only one that's led them to the finals. I think that right there says enough. I don't really need to say too much more. I think everybody sees and understands, finally, the person I really am and what I can do given this opportunity." Marcus Smart, absolutely right. Everyone says, and I hear it too, this Celtics team needs a better point guard. Smart shoots too much. They need a star point guard. Well, Marcus Smart's right. This franchise had Isaiah Thomas, never got to the finals. Had Kyrie Irving, never got to the finals. Had Kemba Walker, never got to the finals. The star point guards here haven't worked. Now, Marcus Smart isn't the only reason why this team got to the finals, but it is fair for him to say, hey, you all want to replace me? Well, I am the guy that has done this when none of those other guys have. I am the guy who has done what worked. That, to me, is absolutely fair for Marcus Smart to say. I think it's true. Kemba, Kyrie, Isaiah, they're all great players in their own way. Kemba, we didn't get the great version of, but Kyrie and Isaiah are great players and in their time. You didn't They didn't get to the finals with them. They got to the finals with me. Marcus Smart is right to be upset. He's right to be annoyed. He's right. This is the off season. He's telling you he has heard it all, and he's tired of it. And I'm on his side for that. It's why when I have talked about the Celtics off season, I've never once mentioned a Marcus Smart replacement. I am looking for a Marcus Smart supplement. That's what I'm looking for. A guy who can take some of the load off Marcus Smart. A guy who can help Smart continue to do what he does, and a guy who can kind of be an extension of him. I want a guy who can help continue what Smart brings to the table. Like, Smart brings a lot to the table. He's a good playmaker. He can put guys in good positions. He can score a bit. He had multiple 20-plus games in the finals. Yes, he could take a couple of bad shots. But you take that in order to get his tenacity and his aggressiveness on the defensive end. Marcus Smart's a good player, a very good player. This team needs him. And for those of you that think he's completely replaceable, that to me is wrong and unfounded. So that's why I'm not asking for. I haven't asked the Celtics to trade for Kevin Durant. I haven't asked them to trade for Devin Booker. I'm asking them to go get the Ricky Rubio type because I do believe in Smart, and Smart believes in himself. So I get why he's annoyed. I get why he's angry. He's saying everybody wants me gone. Well, I'm the guy who's helped us succeed here. And he just wants us all to recognize that. I am on his side. Text on the text line, Marcus Smart has finally turned into the player he was in college, and he's found a way to compete at the highest level. It took a while, but he's a great player in his own right. I agree with him and you, Brady. He's a glue guy, and he should be an all-star. He's priceless for this Celtics team. Ding, ding, ding. Smart texter. That's pretty much how I look at it. He's not completely unmovable. I suppose there's a deal where I could move Marcus Smart, but I'm not looking to move him, and I'm not looking to replace him. He's a good player, and this team needs him. And he's got an attitude and an edge about him that this team had lacked in years. He's got an attitude and edge about him that makes this team better. And as a point guard, he's better than people think he is. Like, just bringing in Lonzo Ball would be a great point guard for this team. He can't do all that Marcus Smart can. Just replacing him. I see people out there that want Marcus Smart gone for a bag of basketballs. What are you people watching? This team is better when Marcus Smart is aggressive, getting into the lane, kicking out, taking the ball handling load out of Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum's hands. He is an invaluable piece to this roster. They need him. And what they need now is to go get him a little bit of extra help. Get him a little bit of extra help. It's a Brady Farkas show on WDEV, AM and FM, and WDEVradio.com. Let's step aside. The Red Sox have a serious roster conundrum coming, and I don't think there's any good answer. We'll talk about that next on DEV.
Head to Waterbury on July 8th and 9th for the Waterbury Arts Fest. It kicks off with a Friday night block party headlined by The Grift. Gates open at 5 p.m. and this classic street dance includes a fabulous beer garden and a food truck court to keep you dancing under the stars. Come back the next day from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. for the Saturday Arts Market with over 100 booths of arts and crafts of all kinds, family activities, and more. Plus main stage music and dance shows and a tasty food truck court. The Waterbury Arts Fest will be held at a new location on Railroad Street. Our grand sponsor is VSECU. Learn more and view the full schedule at waterburyartsfest.com.
Anytime is the right time for ice cream. Ben & Jerry's Waterbury Scoop Shop has all your favorite flavors available to be scooped into a cup, a freshly baked waffle cone, a hot fudge sundae, blended into a milkshake, or even packed to create the most delicious ice cream cake ever. So many Ben & Jerry's flavors to choose from, including our iconic lineup, non-dairy options, and for your four-legged pals, our doggy desserts. We're open every day. Give us a call, swing by, or order online. Easy curbside pickup available. Your taste buds will thank you. Peace, love, and ice cream from Ben & Jerry's.
Thursday night, it's Scout Night at the nation's site of excitement, Thunder Road. All Scouts in uniform admitted free with kids' rides in the race cars from 4 to 5 o'clock. Catch a full card of championship events for the late models, Flying Tigers, Street Stocks, and Road Warriors. Adult admission, $15. Kids 12 and under, $5. And the family fare, 2 adults, 2 kids, just $30. Kids 5 and under, free at the nation's site of excitement, Thunder Road, Quarry Hill, Barrie. Post time, 7 o'clock.
The Warren 4th of July Parade is ready to kick off with unpredictable grand style in Warren Village on Monday, July 4th. The parade steps off at 10 a.m. with the theme Liberty. Live music and street dance at the Warren store to follow, along with free kids activities and more live music at Warren Elementary School. Listen live on WDEV or watch live on MRVTV.com. A full schedule is found at warren4thofjuly.com. Love preparing and serving good food? Hunger Mountain Co-op in downtown Montpelier offers food service jobs with a difference. Work towards a shared cooperative mission while preparing high-quality food using local, organic, and natural ingredients. Hunger Mountain Co-op employees receive a union environment with paid holidays and set schedules with no late nights. Benefits include medical, dental, and vision coverage, a 401k retirement plan, company paid life insurance, paid time off, and a shopping discount. Have a flexible schedule and looking to make extra cash? Hunger Mountain Co-op also hires substitutes to cover employees' absences. Subs earn an hourly wage, accrue paid time off, and receive an employee discount. Hunger Mountain Co-op is an equal opportunity employer. Work within the community you love. View open positions and apply today at hungermountain.coop/employment.
Want Brady to hear your opinion on the sports stories of the day? Text in at 802-585-3026.
Now it's back to the Brady Farkas Show on WDEV AM, FM, and WDEVradio.com.
Welcome back in, Brady Farkas Show, right here on WDEV, AM and FM, and WDEVradio.com. One bit of Celtics news that is out there right now. Sounds like Danilo Gallinari will be deciding between Chicago and Boston for his next team. And a report is out that says Boston is his preferred landing spot. This one's kind of interesting to me. And I'm not quite sure I get it. Now, I like Danilo Gallinari, right? He's a good shooter. He was with Atlanta. They had a lot of shooters on the wing. Gallinari he's a statue. He's a standstill shooter. Well, the Celtics have a lot of wings already, right? Brown is a wing. Tatum is a wing. They got guys who stand on the outside already. Gallinari is not going to do anything for them defensively, and he's not going to do anything for them attacking-wise. He's not the ball handler we're seeking. Now, Brad Stevens said they want more bench scoring. That's true. So this could be that, right? Gallinari could be an absolute weapon off the bench. 100%. He could be a guy who can come in, and I remember him scoring like 20 in 6 minutes or something last year at one point. He was so hot. Gallinari can really shoot it. So bench scoring wise, that would be good for the Celtics. I still think their biggest need is a ball handler, but maybe they want to bring in Gallinari when Brown or Tatum are on the bench. And if that's the case, then I would be okay with it. I said I didn't get it. I certainly don't get him as a starter, right? He is not a starter for this team, but a bench scoring option, a guy who can play when Tatum and Brown are out, a guy who can play 20 minutes a game and get you 16 points, there's room for that on your team. So that's kind of where we're at there. So I kind of talked myself into Gallinari right there. Someone says Gallinari fills a bench scoring need, big-time shooter from downtown. He is good. The Hawks, last year, you look at it, they had Trae Young, Kevin Huerter, Bogdan Bogdanovic, and Gallinari. They were a team that could really stroke it from the outside when they were hot. John Collins. So they had shooting to move on from. They go get Dejounte Murray. So I get why they've moved on. Spurs, bought him out or waived him or whatever. Now the Celtics are apparently in the mix here for Gallo. So as a bench player, I'd be good. I would be good, right? You think about it. Aaron Nesmith isn't that guy. Peyton Pritchard isn't that guy. They play different positions. Gallinari could be a guy off the bench who really does a good job and maybe take some of the pressure again off of Tatum and Brown. We're not going to get to our Red Sox roster crunch today. We are going to get to our Red Sox roster crunch tomorrow, but it involves what happens when Kike Hernandez comes back, because it's going to get very, very dicey for the Red Sox in terms of what they do. There are tough decisions to be made for the Red Sox. We will talk about it and run through it tomorrow. We asked Buster Olney about it today as well, so we'll kind of digest what he said in the overnight, and we'll get to it tomorrow. There is also, we got a great guest tomorrow. I am pumped for tomorrow's show. Red Sox baseball, first pitch is 2:20. You got to figure the game goes till 5:20. We're probably on the air sometime around 6. That's kind of the guess I have in my head. Jack Leggett is going to stop by. I am so pumped to talk to him. It's been a while since I have. But Jack Leggett is a South Burlington, Vermont native, the former UVM baseball coach, 1978 to 1982 as a varsity program. He then went on to Western Carolina, and then he went on to Clemson, and he coached. And he went to the College World Series 6 times. I love the College World Series. It just ended this past week, right, where Ole Miss won their first title. They won that on Sunday in beating Oklahoma. So it was appropriate to try to go get Jack Leggett on, given his connection with the College World Series. Well, he's going to be with us tomorrow. Got to think there's going to be some great stories about his times in Omaha and all that. So Jack Leggett tomorrow after the game. It could be 5:45. It could be 6:15. I don't know, but Jack Leggett knows that, and he's on standby for when the game ends and for when we can get him on. So tomorrow, our final show of the week. Want to give a programming announcement that Monday we are off. We have day Red Sox baseball for July 4th. When the game ends, we're going to be going to ESPN Radio on Monday, so there will be no Brady Farkas show on Monday. So you got to get your fix in tomorrow. So tomorrow, Red Sox recap, Red Sox roster crunch, Jack Leggett, and hey, I got some Patriot stuff in case we need it. Depends on how much time we have tomorrow. Go find the podcast. Go download it. Buster Olney is up there as well already. Our staff does a great job every day with our podcast channel. Again, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and WDEVradio.com. And go check us out there. Jazz with George Thomas is next. And we've got Thunder Road Racing tonight just after 8 o'clock. It's all tonight on WDEV AM and FM.
The IRS doesn't mess around. If they want your money, they'll take it. They can take your paycheck and bank accounts